Let's find the vertex. So to find the vertex, you need to have a formula. And that formula looks like negative b over 2a, comma, something. So essentially, what I'm going to do is plug in negative b into a and find those numbers, and then plug that into my equation. So I say negative, but I should say the opposite. The opposite of negative 24 over 2 times a is negative 3. That's 24 over negative 6 is negative 4. So I know my vertex is going to be negative 4 comma something. And that something is what I get when I plug in. So plug in a negative 4 for x, and that's going to be 16 times negative 3 is negative 48. And negative 24 times negative 4 is plus 96. Plus 3, that's 48 plus 3 is 51. Negative 4 comma 51. That's my vertex. All right. Conic sections, haven't seen those in a while. This was when we did our Mike Wazowski project, all right? So write the equation of a conic section centered at the point negative 5, 12. So a circle might look like this: x plus 5 squared plus y minus 12 squared equals 49. And this would be a circle with radius 7. It'd be a circle centered at that point with radius 7. Most of the other ones are going to equal 1, though. So if I do an ellipse, I'm going to see x plus 5 squared over some number, let's just say 9, plus y minus 12 squared over a different number, let's say 16, equals 1. That's going to be an ellipse, and the reason I want those two numbers to be different is because it's going to be like a circle, but it's stretched more in the y direction than it is in the x direction. That's what makes it elliptical. If both of those two numbers, 9 and 16, if both of those were the same, it'd be stretched the same in both directions, which would make it a circle, not an ellipse. Hyperbola looks exactly like an ellipse with one exception. There's a minus instead of a plus. So hyperbola and ellipse are very, very similar. It's just one has a plus and one has a minus. Write the equation of a parabola with vertex at 4, -1 that opens up, down, left, right. So we know that the regular parabola that we've seen 50 bazillion times is y equals x squared. And when it opens down, it's going to be negative x squared. So something that opens in the positive direction is positive x squared, and in the negative direction is negative x squared. So just flip-flop that for left and right. If it opens to the left, it's facing in the negative direction. That's going to be negative y squared. If it opens to the right, that's in the positive direction. That's going to be positive y squared. You kind of have to have that background information before you answer this question. If it opens up, and oh yeah, don't forget, it also has to have this vertex. We want the general form of y equals x squared. Just put in the vertex. So y minus -1 and x minus 4. That's going to be a parabola that opens up and has that vertex. All right. So if it's down, it's just going to be the same thing with a negative sign. If it opens to the left, our general form is going to be x equals negative y squared. X equals negative y squared. But then we put in our vertex. Notice the x number is 4, so minus 4 over here and minus -1 here. If it opens to the right, it's going to be x equals y squared as my general form. So just put the vertex in like so. So those are questions just force you to have to deal with conic sections and the equations. I don't think those are tough questions, but like everything else, if you don't look at it, you're probably going to miss a bunch of stuff that you shouldn't miss. Find the remainder. So I'm a big fan of finding the zero. We're using that. We're using that number 2, and we're going to do synthetic division here. So negative 4x to the 4th, 2x to the 3rd, negative 1x squared, 2x, and 10. Add down and multiply diagonal. 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 Add down. That's your remainder. Okay. That is your remainder, unless I messed it up, but that is your remainder. Okay, this is a good question for a multiple choice test because it should be quick if you know what you're doing. All right. If I was going to sketch this, I want a quick sketch that I'm gonna be able to tell which one of the multiple choice answers is right quickly. And so how I would do this one is first I see this is an x and this is going to be an x squared and this is going to be an x, and I don't need to multiply all of it out and distribute all of it out in order to see that it's going to be x times x squared times x. It's going to be some form of x to the 4th. And it's not a negative x to the 4th, it's a positive x to the 4th. So we talked about this being positive and even. And we talked about the end behavior. End behavior tells me an awful lot about what the graph looks like. So positive and even, think about an x squared graph. When you've got a positive x squared, your end behavior is going to look like this. All right, that is your end behavior. But I have more information than that because I know things about my zeros. I've got a 0 at negative 3 and positive 1 and positive 5. So I've got an awful lot of information about this graph right now. I've got a 0 at negative 3, positive 1, and positive 5. I know the end behavior is up, and I also notice that this right here means that there is a multiplicity of 2. A multiplicity of 2 means that the graph is going to behave just like an x squared would behave, or it's going to look like a parabola, or an upside down parabola, depending on what we need it to do. All right. So I know the end behavior is going to be up and up like this. But I can also say, well, it's going to go straight through. This has a multiplicity of 1, which means it acts like a line there. So it's going to go straight through like a line. Same thing over here. Multiplicity of 1 means it goes straight through like a line. But I'm going to have to bounce right here in order to make this fit. So multiplicity of 1, multiplicity of 2 makes it look like a x squared. Multiplicity of 1 right there. So that is a very quick sketch, something that would be ideal for a multiple choice question. I can see my end behavior. I can see my zeros really, really quickly. I can probably match that up.